Every flurry of notes performed by the Exorcist's artillerists loads and targets thrice-blessed rocket volleys to bombard the enemy. More than artillery tanks, Exorcists are mobile shrines to the magnificence of the Emperor that project inspirational battle canticles. Hi, it's Tacticus again. Today we're going to discuss the newest machine of war coming this month, the Exorcist Artillery Tank of the Adepta Sororitas, as well as its Incursion event starting at the end of June. Before we begin though, it's my turn to say thank you. This channel recently hit 1000 subscribers, which is still just a bit unreal for me. To commemorate this event, Snowprint provided me with a celebratory code, Tacticus1K. If you like my content, I still appreciate every new subscriber, and if you want to help me out in-game, you can use my referral code BAD60ADU for 100 Blackstone for you, and various rewards for me depending on certain milestones you reach in-game. The Sororitas get their machine of war in the Exorcist Artillery Tank in the upcoming Incursion. I feel it's the most stylish machine of war yet. It's just so over-the-top Warhammer. A black tank filled with ornaments and religious imagery, 2 cherubs hovering around its peaks, a giant pipe organ filling the air with the religious hymns of the sisters, accompanying their chorus. The tank itself has a giant pipe organ built on the back of a rhino, and a sister enthusiastically playing on it. She's having so much fun. You can see it a bit better in battle. Rockets shoot out of the pipes and bring doom to the unfaithful and the heretic alike. Can't be good for sound quality. Faith in the God Emperor is better than a sound system, I guess. Maybe it's just me, but this machine feels bigger in scale than the stubby Plagueburst Crawler or the Heretic Puppy. I know those are technically also big as a model, but this just feels bigger. It's a proper tank. Both the active and the passive have a 1-turn initial cooldown. The passive is always the most interesting thing about a machine of war for me, because it's free. Good free effect on a machine of war can make it really powerful, as seen with the AI manipulating prowess of the Biowar, or the enemy hindering fire of the Forge Fiend. Heck, even the Plagueburst Crawler can greatly increase your damage, as I laid out in this video. Sadly, the Exorcist fails on that front in my book. The passive is called Devastating Refrain and counts as a ranged attack. It marks a hex of your choice anywhere on the map and will then also mark 3 adjacent hexes that are not next to each other, resulting in a kind of T-shape. The narrow end points to your Exorcist and the broad end faces away from you. Those hexes will get hit by rockets at the beginning of next turn, dealing 1 hit of blast damage each. The number of hits isn't that important on blast attacks, as they can always kill swarms, which is nice, but they only have a 15% pierce ratio. For every unit hit, each Sister of Battle on the field has a chance of 25 to 75% to trigger her Act of Faith trait for a 10% increase on crit chance and 25% increase on crit damage, as if an enemy had been defeated by an Imperial unit. The effect will roll for the chance for each sister on the battlefield individually. I tried if killing an enemy with the Exorcist would count for Act of Faith 2 for a potential 2 stages of Act of Faith, but it doesn't. You can see the damage for various breakpoints on screen. Let's just compare it to some blast units at Gold 1 to the adequate level 35 ability in the Tacticus planner. Ignore Pastilian on screen. He's just there because of his passive. His own attacks have a far higher 70% pierce ratio. The 1250 to 1550 damage with 1 hit of the Exorcist pales in comparison to the 3 hits Thaddeus will do. Since the Exorcist will hit multiple hexes, we should maybe look at Thaddeus active, which hits 5 shells 2 times around 1000 blast damage each. The damage is absolutely okay for essentially an additional fighter the machine of war is, but nothing to write home about, and a canny opponent will move out of the way. The Act of Faith buff it provides will only really shine if you take a lot of Sororitas, and at least for guild raids that's probably not viable. The active Thrice Blessed Conflagration will cost 1 ammunition and target one of your units to increase its range damage up to 20%. You can see the relevant breakpoints on screen. You can target any of your units and get the damage buff. Sisters of Battle will additionally also deal extra damage with melee attacks, but I'm not sure a lot of them want to attack that way. Ranged seems fine for me, and Isabella would rather heal. This Machine of War can actually also inflict fire on hexes, but that might not come up often. Before trying it out, I really didn't understand how the Exorcist's active worked. Basically, after you choose your unit, the game will attack an enemy adjacent to that unit with 1 hit of flame damage. The damage is a bit lower than the passives, but flame damage has 25% of piercing and it happens immediately, so it's much more targeted. The game then draws a straight line from your chosen character to the adjacent enemy and continues that line for as many hexes as there are enemies continuing the line. On crowded maps, it could actually hit quite a few enemies and set those hexes on fire. In boss raids against multi-hex enemies, it will set the whole enemy ablaze as usual and continue that line as expected. Since the Neurothrope doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with enemies though, as do all Tau, should you want to use those in any capacity, due to their close combat weakness trait, and the fire only hitting enemies adjacent to your fighter when you choose them, choosing them and then flying away to get a buff for your ranged attacks seems ill-advised. You either go next to the enemy and get a flame damage, but not the buff, or are back in safety and get a buff but no flames due to the lack of adjacent enemies. The only case where you can have your cake and eat it too will be either with the Sisters of Battle running up to an enemy and using the Exorcist's active before attacking, or starting next to an enemy, using the machine and then run away to shoot at it. The Exorcist might have a place in guild raids actually. In it, the neglected Neurothrope team finds a potential good friend. The flat damage buff is definitely nice on a huge hitter as the Neurothrope, and adding a flat 20% damage to it could be a huge boon. Having that damage not capped is what makes it viable. The change in Ahriman might have lowered the percentage of damage increase to enemies on fire hexes from 50% to 33%, but the uncapping of the effect has led to increased value for Neurothrope teams. While you can set your own fire with Ahriman, and in need with Apaxas, having a backup option in the Exorcist can't hurt. You will mainly use it to buff your Neurothrope's damage though, and as discussed, will rarely have the buff and the fire. I haven't dabbled with newer teams for a long time, but what else are you gonna take? The Biowar could still be useful for AI manipulation, and the Forge Fiend can help with Ahriman's damage buff, but is not necessary for it. The Exorcist's important effect starts on 15%, even without investment, and doesn't go up that much, which means you get a lot of its proposed value from the get-go. Only the need to use ammunition for using it might be taxing on Neurothrope mains. Even on a budget, using only 1 ammo per fight might be worthwhile, as the turn with the maximum neuroparasites for the maximum damage and the additional hit from Yasagor's active will profit most from the Exorcist's active use. I'll have a guild raid video I tried in the very end of the video. Now for a quick look of the Exorcist's Incursion event, starting on the 30th of June. This Incursion follows the new format, and is the second Incursion that started out that way. You follow a roguelike route through the levels and basically collect power-ups along the way, adding to your strength, and occasionally can avoid a battle doing so. It might be a bit upsetting for my completionist mind that you can't do all battles in one go, but I really like this choosing your own path approach to it. In the higher tiers there are 15 levels, of which you will be able to fight 13 at most, but can go as low as 8 fights, which combined with the upgrades makes it easier to reach those higher chests and means you need fewer raid tokens if you just want to farm your 2 legendary and 2 epic badges, as people tend to do. As a summoned power-up you get Tyranid warriors this time. Other than the Harlequins, who became more poxwalkers mostly in the Blightholder event, I think they are far more useful, with the active slicing through multiple enemies and their passive making them deceptively tanky every second round. As the Synapse trait also lets you ignore battle fatigue in 2 hexes around them, Genestealer cultists, Crots, and even the Orc warriors from Gulgots profit from their presence. You'll play as the Xenos against the Crusade consisting of the Astra Militarum, who are along for the ride as always and just bring basic guardsmen, Black Templars with their already known unit types, and as a leading enemy faction, the Adepta Sororitas. As the main enemy faction, they'll come with their characters. Pay close attention to Isabella, as you don't want her to prolong the fight by bringing back enemy characters and summons. Enemies around her also recover health for every hit they're hit with, so try to focus her down before going to town on her surroundings. Celestine is the best defense those battle nuns can muster against a reverse Overwatch, as it doesn't count as killing the target of the Overwatch attack when you kill her Gemini by shooting at a living saint. Because of this, it is advised to hold off on reverse Overwatch until you have hit her twice, which will mean that in the enemy's turn the first moving Gemini will run straight into reverse Overwatch, followed by their leader. To bolster out the roster and have it really feel as if fighting against the Sororitas, they have been kitted out with 2 new NPC enemy troop types. The Battle Sisters, pretty generic warriors with the Act of Faith trait. This trait is shared by all Adepta Sororitas and increases their critical hit chance and damage for each enemy an Imperial ally kills or each Imperial killed by the enemy. It resets after the next crit, so you are going to get crit a lot of times. Another thing to notice about them is their range of 3, avoiding your reverse and immospec overwatches. It also means they can try and snipe vulnerable second row fighters. This could be a problem for the Genestealer cults if they didn't have that many summons they'll target first. The second new addition are the Sephirim. They are pretty fast with 4 hexes of movement and have flying and deep strike. Think Etana almost. Pretty much mini Etana to be honest, with the high critical chance and all. Those flying Valkyries will be set up in deep strike, which means, as with Chaos Terminators, they'll always hit you first. With their Embodied Prophecy passive, they'll also have a block chance of 25% in the first 2 rounds of the battle, as well as additional crit damage during that time. This trickle of damage makes healers even more crucial, as you can't avoid the damage other than hoping they go for summons first, which needs targetable enemies for most characters. There is a few levels only consisting of those flying menaces. That would be a hard level, if it was not for Rivers, who can just overwatch all of them to death. Hopefully. The Xenos are always my favorite faction to play as. With plenty of summons, you have the means to have enough meat shields to 3-star a lot of battles. The downside is the lack of healers other than Holland, who is pretty frail. Other than that, there's only Aleph Null and Gibber as mechanics and a few mechanical units they can actually affect. The Genestealers in general deserve a shoutout as they can resurrect themselves once per battle. While in other grindy modes as Survival that's not as good, as they only come back once, in an Incursion your lost HP might be permanent, but the ambush trait of the Genestealers lets them come back once per battle. So, should your Holland die, he come back at full health the round after, which combined with the huge amount of Isaac summons, makes them really good in this event. The combination of Aleph Null and Revas is also as potent as ever, and might help you to finish off a lot of enemies in one round, especially with the absence of Mortar Team's suppressive fire, which hampered the attempt to do that against the Malleus rocket launcher. Have a look at the map before choosing your fighters. On a map like this, Isaac will have a problem summoning his cultists, and your movement is pretty restricted. Additionally, the Sapphires will be in deep strike, and you can't attack straight away. In this case, Revas and Aleph are a good combination. You can bolster them with Gulgords for more summons. Immuspec is a bit frail for my taste here, so you're probably better off using Onchi to get more shield drones on the field, as well as Show for those drones as a defensive backup and great damage attacks. Against enemies on a map as this, I'd rather use the full Genestealer package. As there's no Overwatch here, you can probably drop the Pater Mine if he doesn't get into range turn 1, and again use Onchi to get more Isaac summons. On open maps, I'd always try to get Isaac summons in turn 1, and then try to overwhelm the enemy. The Parasite, while frail, might also work well by doing a hit and run with his active, leaving behind some river swarms the enemy might have a hard time to dispatch. Only the occasional Aggressor's Fragstorm has Blast, and the Sisters have 3 hits at most, meaning the Ripper and Scarab Swarms you can bring will keep the enemy busy for some time. Basically, favor summons and Overwatch. Summons on maps that are open, Overwatch on maps where you'll be stung by the Zephyrs and can't distract them with your summons first. Everything that's frail other than the Genestealers that can just stand back up, you shouldn't take. What do you think of the Exorcist, and which machine of war will you choose this incursion? Let me know in the comments. If you want to know my thoughts on the Plagueburst Crawler and why he might not be as bad, you can click here. Come back tomorrow for the results of my Eltrion shard giveaway and my Gleam code for the ongoing Tacticus Raffle snowprint due right now. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. Now, here you can see me try out my first try of a fight against Gazgul featuring the Exorcist. I included Xibia for her active's extra damage, Ahriman for the fire and fire damage, Abraxas to make Yazagor's attack psychic, and for his summons, and of course the Neurothrope. I set all fighters to level 50 blue star with as high equipment as I could. I'm really not experienced with the team, so excuse the mistakes I make. I attack with Neuro first to get the stacks of parasites started. You want them as fast as possible, but I opt out of summoning with Abraxas turn 1 to get more summons total. The others I could have positioned better, to be honest. Round 2, Yas goes next to Abraxas for the psychic hit, and then summons with Abraxas for 4 demons. I'm not too concerned they might die, as they will trigger more Orc Boys otherwise. Then just attack. Neurothrope's reach is really good here. There the Exorcist misses. Oh well, wanted to go cheap and only use 1 ammo in the crucial round. As I can't seem to find high ground, I wait even though I have max stacks of Parasite early enough. I want old Storm Boys gone and no close combat weakness as well as high ground. In the last round I managed to do just that. Libya goes next to Gazgul, as she won't be able to attack in the round she uses her active in any case, and I need a fighter adjacent to him for the active to work. Yas teleports the Neurothrope for the additional hit and to get it to the high ground. Abraxas goes next to Neurothrope for the passive damage. Lastly, Ahriman sets gas on fire. I apply the Exorcist to the Neurothrope for a final buff and can do more than 200,000 damage in a single attack. It was kind of fun. With better positioning, I could have profited from Apraxas more, and I should probably have used Ahriman's active on the Storm Boys, but the potential is definitely there, as you can see from this rough draft. The Exorcist alone added 33.38 thousand damage in the last turn, which is definitely respectable. Using it in a few turns before as well could increase that damage even further.